all these different things people feel like they have to do in an email, like introduce my company, link to my website. None of that stuff is going to help you get a reply to the email.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guide, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast.
Well, hello, it's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy, and it's time for episode 99 of the McMethod Marketing Podcast, where you'll discover how to get more customers with less effort by using automated email marketing techniques and strategies. Pretty badass stuff. Now, today I'll be talking to Robert Williams. Robert came to me a couple of weeks ago. He's actually just released a book on emails that win clients. Simple as that, right? A lot of people who have services to offer get online, go and get a list of email addresses from companies that may need their help, and then email them. Cold emailing. Contrary to what a lot of people think, it actually works, but you have to do it right, okay? And a lot of people who've been in this game and trying to get copywriting clients or trying to get sales funnel clients or whatever it happens to be is, they struggle. It can be really, really hard. And you sit down and you do 100 emails and get one reply, and the one reply says, stop sending me emails. It happens. And so I thought I'd get Robert on the show to kind of talk about, well, what's your strategy? What are the mistakes that people are making when it comes to cold emails, and what can they do to rectify those mistakes and start increasing their close rate when it comes to those cold emails? So if you're looking for more clients, or you're using cold emailing your strategy, whether it's to get guests for your own podcasts, or to find business deals, or to go on LinkedIn, this is going to be a podcast that's really, really useful to you. To get the show notes for this episode of the Email Marketing Podcast, go to themcmethod.com/99. We're 1 week away from the 100th celebratory episode, and they got something cool coming up next week. Anyway, now, first thing is just a reminder that if you'd like to work personally with me to help, if you'd like my personal one-on-one attention to help create your email autoresponder campaign, create a whole sales funnel for you, and or just depending on whatever you need, I can certainly do that. The next step, send me an email, john@themcmethod.com. Tell me what you're looking for and what you need, and we'll get on Skype the next few days or next week to discuss your project. And we'll have some fun with it. We'll get you some customers. Now, this week's McMaster's Inside of the Week is a pretty boring one, to be honest. Accountability. And this is huge. It's something that takes a long time to understand, but if you don't have someone that's giving you accountable with your goals, with your vision, you're just not going to follow through. Okay, it's as simple as that. So you need to find some accountability, whether it's with a friend, a mentor, a business partner. You need to get it sorted. And this is why one of the things inside McMaster's, inside the forum, is an accountability section where every week you post an update on what you're going to do in your business this week, what goals you're going to accomplish, and why it's important to you. And, we'll all follow up and keep you accountable to make sure that you're following through with your tasks. So keeping you accountable. It's the secret to success. Now, I've got one review today. It's 5 stars, and it's 5 stars with email marketing. This one's from Hugo S. Marino from the United States. Love the podcast, mate. The information is jam-packed with knowledge you'd only get if you actually hired some of these guys. Keep up the good work. P.S. Cool radio voice. P.P.S. You owe me a beer. And that's fair enough. That is fair enough. Hugo, thanks for the review, mate. And you're absolutely right. When it comes to the podcast, what the great thing is I can email someone like John Carlton or one of these big dogs, one of these gurus, and be like, hey, can we get on the phone and just have a chat about my business, and I can ask you questions? They're going to be like, no way. Here's my PayPal buy now link for $10,000. Meanwhile, if I go to them and say, hey, I've got a podcast, do you want to do an interview, and I'll ask you questions about my business, and we'll create a whole episode about it, they go, yeah, sure. So that's one of the great things about podcasting. Free coaching is one way to look at it. And you get the benefit of that by listening to this podcast. So that's that. Thanks again, Hugo, for the review. Now let's get into this interview on cold emails with Mr. Robert Williams. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Robert Williams. Now, Robert has some really interesting stuff going on. I think he's going to make a great podcast, a great interview. He's just launched a new book called Emails That Win You Clients. So what I like about that is very simple, very straightforward, and I think it's very applicable to a lot of listeners to this podcast. Even me, I'm really looking forward to this conversation because because I do a fair bit of client work myself with creating, autoresponders and sales pages and sales funnels and split testing and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be, basically Robert's going to share a strategy or a few different strategies, a way to kind of use cold emails to get clients basically. Not just, tiny little measly clients that don't pay you much, but big deals, proper deals that can build you a very, very decent income. So things like, what should you say first? What if you sound spammy? How do you frame yourself? How do you get the right tone for the email? We're going to talk about all that stuff today, and you'll also get a chance to buy Robert's book, and that's at emails@win.com. He's also got a great service called Let's Workshop, and as far as I understand, he basically sends you freelance leads that you can email today and make your money. So instead of you going and get the leads, he gets the leads for you and then just gives them to you, and you can email them yourself, which is a pretty cool service. We'll probably talk about that too. So, Robert, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show, man. So, I did like a fairly quick intro there based on what we chatted about before I hit record. Can you give the listener a bit more of a background on who you are, what you do, and what this whole cold email strategy is all about?
Sure. So, I think probably like a lot of listeners, I went to an art school, and once I graduated, I kind of came out dreaming of like an agency job, or maybe like a startup job. And I was prepared to do that. I had a nice portfolio, and I emailed, a bunch of different agencies. I ended up working at one and realized that it was not my, the ideal dream job that I had been dreaming of.
Why is that? What's wrong with working a job?
Well, for me, it was not controlling my future, not controlling how much money I was making, or even the work that I was working on. It was somebody telling me what to do and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started looking at freelancing a little bit more seriously. And so what I ended up doing was going out on my own and looking for freelance clients online, kind of building a consultancy based off of basically no clients, and looking for them online. And I ended up doing that for a year and a half. And so starting it kind of from scratch like that was a kind of a unique experience for me. A lot of times you hear on the internet like freelancing is all about feast or famine, and you go from one extreme to the other of like having tons of clients and having zero the next day. And a lot of the meme out there on the internet is like the only real way to get work is through referrals, which like, I'm not gonna lie, referrals are huge, and it's great if you can get them, but I just knew that there was like other ways to get freelance work. You can't just start out getting referrals all the time. So
this is cool. Because it's so true. This is when people start. It's just like, well, I don't have any clients, so I don't have any case studies, so I can't get any. Like, what do I show people? So I can't get referrals, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know where to start.
Exactly. And so what I ended up doing was like looking for leads online, looking for different opportunities I could kind of cold contact. And what ended up working for me was a few different things I noticed was, and we can get into all of it like a little bit later. But what basically came from that was I noticed like I can get clients on my own. I don't need referrals. I don't have to at least only rely on referrals, and I don't have to just be sitting and waiting for work to come to me. And once I realized that, it was just about taking the time to kind of find the opportunities, cull through all of them, and kind of realize which ones were going to pan out and be successful clients of mine. And once I did that, I realized it was taking a lot of my time. I wished I could kind of hire another web designer to do it for me, because I had tried like a VA. I had tried getting my girlfriend to do them for me, and they were just like kind of lost in it because they weren't web designers themselves, and so they couldn't really identify the clients. So that's why I started Workshop. I was noticing it was taking me a really long time to do it, and I wished I could hire like a web designer or like another freelancer to do it for me, because at the time I was trying to like get my girlfriend to do it or get my VA to do it, and they just didn't really understand what a good client looked like. And that's when I had the idea for Workshop, which was me basically taking this over for freelancers and looking all over the internet for the best opportunities and sending out the 10 best ones every day. And so that way the freelancer can only focus on contacting them and winning the work, building, the relationship with the client, which is what freelancers really want to focus on anyway. And so that kind of brings me to the point of the book, which is emails that win you clients. in the past year and a half, I've been working with all these hundreds of freelancers that get the leads I send them. And I've been able to kind of extract the patterns of like what the people who struggle and the people who land client after client in the service. And what I've noticed is like the people who don't succeed with a workshop, the people who struggle, the people who keep having kind of the famine, feast or famine cycle, they all do the exact same, almost word for word tactics in their emails. And so I started working with them. I worked with, over 50 different freelancers and sent out hundreds and maybe thousands of emails by now to all these different clients. And what I ended up noticing was like I was just basically repeating the same things over and over to all of these freelancers. And that's when I decided to kind of put it all in one place in a book that it could be referred to, and I could send that out instead, just because I was getting kind of tired of repeating it.
Yeah.
And so that's where it came from. And I think, I don't know, do you want to get into like what the book is about, like the specific tactics and everything?
Well, give me a rundown. Like, talk to me about, like, we're talking about like designers and developers, but as a copywriter, I know that these kind of strategies, like it's about who you're trying to talk to. So whether you're trying to sell design stuff or develop stuff or copywriting, it's all going to work.
Yeah, I see it. This will probably all resonate more with your with copywriters, because copywriters kind of understand some of the fundamentals. And so like a basic rundown would be, I kept seeing the same mistakes happening, which was emails were extremely long. Emails were focused like completely on the person writing the email. They didn't provide like a single call to action or a single next step that could be done. So they were kind of all over the place, kind of typical copywriting errors, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny too, like, because I got a friend of mine who in Thailand who's doing some of this like cold outreach stuff, and he's not a copywriter. He does some different kind of stuff, but he's right now he's really trying to build out like that marketing process to bring on new clients, some sort of reliable way that he can bring on new deals. And we usually work in an office together, so once a day or once or twice a week he'll come over to me and say, well, can you check out this email? What do you think? And often it's funny because he's trying to think like a copywriter, which is interesting because he tries to go in there and tries to have some benefits and tries to make it interesting and compelling and that kind of thing. But when I look at it, I'm like, dude, if this is a cold email, you can't write them 200 words and give them a whole story and explain everything. All you really want to say is, you could correct me if I'm wrong, because sounds by the sound of it, you're the cold email guy. But I think it's like you say, like, it should be like 2 or 3 sentences, like just checking in. Here's, do you have this problem? If so, let me know and let's have a chat. And, whereas I see people, the mistakes I've seen is when they go into that, here's what I do, here's all about this, here's all the reasons why you should probably contact me. And like the one mistake could be like not using copywriting at all. The other mistake is thinking that you need way too much copywriting.
Yeah, exactly. And those are probably the two biggest issues I see. Is like there's on one hand the extremely long email that nobody's going to read ever in their entire life because it sucks the life out of you, and on the other hand is like the one sentence email that's like, hey, I'm a freelancer, and so the two extremes you definitely want to stay away from. But if you're gonna, a shorter email is just way more compassionate for the reader. Like, everybody's busy, everybody is focused on themselves, and everybody is stressed out. They don't want to read this huge long email. And so, considering that, it's a little different for like email newsletters or like autoresponders, stuff like that. When you're cold emailing somebody, you definitely have to keep it as short as possible.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. Like, do you have like a framework or a strategy or some sort of blueprint that you use when you cold email someone?
So there's a few things I always do when I, getting started with writing the email. And I think the key is you want to stay away from getting put in the trash can, right? And the number one way, like when you check your email, the first thing you're looking for is how can I, throw this email in the trash? And the first thing you think is this email spam, right? And that's something that I noticed a lot too. In the book, I go into like, I don't think freelancers should use scripts, or at least they shouldn't rely on scripts too much, because a freelancer only needs a handful of clients. They don't need thousands and thousands of clients or customers. So focusing in on like a one-to-one basis, like the way you write your email, it should be, in order to not be spam. Like, the definition of spam is like an email you can send out to thousands of people, right? And so if you write the email in a way that you're focusing on the person that you're writing to as opposed to yourself, that tells the person opening up your email, like, this person took the time to like understand who I am. First of all, he knows my first name. It's obvious it's not spam at that point. And so I think that's the first thing you have to do is like make sure there's no way that this email can be misconstrued as like spam. And it's authentic, and because everybody's inbox is full of spam. That's the number one, I think, thing that the freelancers don't do either. Freelancers kind of focus on themselves. They send an email out that could literally be sent to anybody because it's all focused on themselves. Like, I went to college. I had this job. I have these clients. This is my website. This is my work. I do this. And so that's the number one thing.
Okay. And so how do they do that though? Like, it's one thing to kind of to understand that idea.
Yeah.
How do you actually do it? How do you actually connect with someone and come across as a real person? What, down to I know you can't script this because here's an example, right? Like, I'll give you an example of some emails that I've been sending out to people, and you can tell me if this is. Let me see. I'll bring them up right now. They're from. So what I did, I got a list of people who used certain softwares online, email marketing software like Infusionsoft and Ontraport and that kind of thing. I got their first name. I had the software platform that they're using. I had their website, the company name. So what I did with it is, I'm bringing the email up now. I emailed someone. So I basically said, "Hey, name." So hey, Robert. I just saw that you're using it, Infusionsoft on your website, emails.win.com. I'm just wondering if you're happy with it. Are you getting it? You're paying a lot, fair amount for it. Are you happy with the results you're getting with it? Let me know, John.
Right.
That was more or less the email. It was kind of like trying to be personal, but be quick and to the point as well.
Yeah, and that email is focused on me, the reader. It's not focused on you or anything about what you're doing or anything in terms of that way, right? So that's great, and that's I think. Have you seen success with that email? Have you sent it out?
I have actually. Well, I mean, one guy replied, and he's just like, "Man, that was an amazing cold email." So yeah, it's working.
Well, yeah. I mean, the other thing too is you're providing like a very clear question there. A lot of times people they get down to the bottom of their email after they write this 4, 5, 6 paragraph email, and they don't know how to close it because at that point it's like this huge brain dump of an email, and so like they don't know what one thing they can say. They don't know how this kind of all ties together. And so what they end up doing is they end up leaving it to the person they're emailing. So what they'll say is they might even literally say like, "Hey, let me know if there's a fit here. Like, let me know if this all makes sense, or let me know if you think I can help you." And at that point, it's like, if you don't know you can help somebody, there's no reason you should be emailing them. The only reason you should be emailing them is if you know you can help them. As somebody who gets email, like, that's the only reason why I want to get an email from somebody. Or if they're going to be pitching me something,
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, people think that pitching is bad, and but untargeted pitching, where you don't actually know much about who you're trying to pitch, is bad. It's just not going to work. But if you go in there and you're like we're all business people, so we all have problems. And everyone in the marketplace has problems that they need to solve. So if you're cold emailing someone, all you really need to do, I mean, they're looking for solutions, and if you come across and tell them, well, here you go, you've got this problem, and I know exactly how to solve this problem for you.
Right.
Let me know if you want to have a quick chat about it on Skype sometime. It's really hard to ignore an email about that because it's got nothing to do with, like, at the end of the day, and I teach people this in my programs. It's got nothing to do with you as a business, you as a copywriter, you as whoever you are. It's all about what's in it for them. And whether you like it or not, that's what people are going to be thinking, consciously or unconsciously, when they read your emails.
Totally. And it not only does it not have anything to they don't want to buy you as a copywriter, they don't even want to buy the copy that you write.
Yeah.
What they want to buy is like the outcome of what the copy is, or like you said, the solution and the benefit of that solution. So that's why I think you shouldn't really focus on your portfolio to like sell your work for you, or to sell you, help you win more work. Portfolios are usually like pretty boring for anybody who's not the freelancer sending it over. And so I don't know. That's I think that's a really good point to make. Is that the solution is what people are buying, the benefit of the solution, and not the work, not the this the first part, right?
Right. I mean, this is another thing too. Is that like if someone just wants a website or they just want, you got to avoid presenting yourself as a commodity. Like if you're just another copywriter, then there's no reason for them to get on the phone with you and have a chat or even hire you. I mean, you're one among tens of thousands of copywriters. So whereas if you go, I mean, that was part of the whole reason I started calling myself the autoresponder guy, because the idea was when I got on the phone with someone or when I was having a conversation with someone, I could be like, well, yeah, I wouldn't say this explicitly, but I would imply that, well, yeah, you can go and hire a copywriter to write your emails, but wouldn't you rather hire the autoresponder guy? It's kind of like, would you rather hire a generic web designer, or would you rather hire a web designer who only works with gardening companies, and you just happen to be a gardening company? And it's like, well, of course you're going to hire the gardening web designer. So part of this comes to is you can't just go in with like an unsolicited pitch and you're just like, I'm a web designer and I'm really good and I've got a great portfolio, because that's what everyone says. You got to go in there. You got to have something different, either in the email or on the phone.
So like last year, I was I have a story that kind of ties back to what you're saying. Last year, I was looking for a used car, and I did a bunch of research. I even bought this book on like how to negotiate for used cars and all this stuff. And once I started the process, like I emailed a bunch of people. I found like a few cars that kind of matched what I was looking for, and I emailed them all, and we all started kind of the negotiation process with like 5 or 6 different car dealers. And then a few days later, I found like the exact perfect car I wanted to buy, a Honda Accord, and it had like the color I wanted and everything else that I wanted. I emailed the guy and I told him, hey, can you lower the price? At that point, he had like exactly what I wanted, right? He emails me back and says, hey, man, I would love to lower the price, but I can't, because our dealership prices as low as possible at all times, and our customers love that about us. And so I hope you will love that too about us. And that may or may not be true. He might lower prices for some people. But at that point, as opposed to I might have been able to even get him down a few $1,000s, or I might have been able to get another car for cheaper, but it wouldn't be the exact car that I want, right? And so what this kind of ties back with you is like, you niched down and you became the autoresponder guy. All the other if somebody wants autoresponders, all the other copywriters are no longer you. It's no longer about choosing between these 5 copywriters. It's between choosing these 5 copywriters and the autoresponder guy. So I think it once you have something that people want, and it sets a different game up, right? Have you seen that since you made the change?
Absolutely, that was one of the best things I've done. That was something that I've done it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I mean, it's probably changing and morphing right now. But niching down, it's not like people think niching down is like, you exclude yourself from the rest of the market, and that's partially true. But I mean, really, we're talking about you just need a way to differentiate yourself. It's not rocket science. All you're really saying is like, what makes you different? Like, if I'm talking to a web designer or a copywriter, and I'm like, look, there's 100,000 copywriters. There's thousands of copywriters out there. Why should I hire you? What makes you different?
Right.
And it's really just what's your answer to that question. People call it a unique selling proposition. You can say like niching down or positioning, like a positioning statement. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, why are you different? Because if you're not different, then it doesn't actually matter whether I go with you or any of the other, 10,000 copywriters out there, any of the other web designers out there. Or, if you're just buying, if that car that you wanted, that car, instead of just being one of a kind, you found the one that you wanted, there might have been 50,000 of that exact type. Like if there was 50,000 copies of that exact car that you wanted, then you wouldn't have needed to go with that guy.
Yeah, exactly. But because there was only this one, and it was, it only came up and it had everything I wanted, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. Price at that point becomes less important. Price. It's no longer, you're not comparing apples to apples anymore. You're comparing something you really want and that is far and above everything else versus something that, you can haggle down a little bit.
Yeah. So it's interesting how much this stuff applies, like the positioning and having the USP, having the unique selling proposition applies to this cold emailing, in the sense that really we're talking about the offer here. If you don't have anything good to offer, then cold emailing is gonna struggle with it. And by good to offer, you've got to have something that distinguishes you from everyone else. And if you don't have that in place, the cold emailing is going to be an uphill battle. However, if you can nail that down, it's going to make going and reaching out to people a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think if you're a freelancer, you definitely have something people want to buy. I don't think you necessarily have to think of it in terms of like niching it down or like in terms of like getting really specific about one thing. I think just becoming very clear about the benefits of the work that you do. And I think that's almost enough to kind of dominate, because most people really have no idea what the true value is of their work. And so if you can present that kind of clearly and like in words people understand, for example, in design and development, there's all these terms, and even copywriting, there's all these like vague industry terms. Like, for example, there's UX, there's, Ruby on Rails, PHP, there's all these this jargon, right? And it's the same in copywriting, like headlines, subheads, and all these other industry jargon. And what I find is like a lot of times the people who are struggling, they kind of rely on this stuff like as a crutch. Like, hey, I'm a UX researcher, and to the client, you're not that thing. You're the person that like updates their website or like decides what to put on their website, right? And so I think becoming a lot clearer about like the way you communicate with people, like realize that a client hasn't studied copywriting for 5 years. So if you try selling them in a way that talks about copywriting, it's going to go over their head, and you're not going to present your value. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it has to be quite so like you have to niche down and only focus on one thing. But if you do that, it does allow you to kind of anchor that, and if it's something people understand, like autoresponders, or if they're looking for that thing in specific, it's gonna help you a lot in terms of the value you present.
Right. Right. So look, I mean, this is really the question of empathy of like people are going to take before if you're going to talk to someone, you really have to communicate on their level, which requires. Well, this is the fascinating thing about copywriting, because writing a cold email is we're essentially talking about copywriting. It's not so much about the actual words you put in there; it's about understanding. There's not like a perfect set of words or a perfect template. A lot of it's just about understanding, having empathy for who you're trying to talk to, and really understanding them and the language they're going to use and what their needs, wants, dreams, and desires are.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the key to unlocking like any type of customer, right? Is understanding them. And what I always say, anything that you come up with is not going to be as good at selling to a customer than as something that they came up with. So if you're contacting somebody like with a job posting they literally wrote what they want and what they're looking for in the job post. So looking and pulling phrases from a job post is almost always going to resonate with the people you're emailing 10 times more, because they wrote those words and said, I want this. This is, or extracting from their words what they're looking for. That's oftentimes like enough to kind of go off of on a cold email. Yeah. Because a lot of times freelancers kind of get hung up like there's no business name, there's no blog on there. I don't know enough about the client to email them. I don't have enough. It's too vague. And if you look at their job post, they're saying, okay, I want this website because of this, and can you help me with this specific issue I'm having? And it's like if they're having this technical issue, or they're not getting enough leads coming in the door, then it's pretty clear like what the benefit is that you're going to be selling them, and that's all you really need to have in the email. And kind of reflecting their words is always going to be more powerful.
Absolutely. I think that's the key. That is the key. So let's sum it up then, and then we'll wrap it up. So it sounds like if you're going to write emails, obviously you need to figure out what how you're going to stand out. And basically you need to just be solving a real problem. So go and figure out what your clients want, what your prospects want, what those leads want, and work those things into the email. And if you can, even get the actual phrases that they've used in job advertisements, that kind of thing, in there. And then when it comes to actually writing the email, the sounds of it, you need some sort of attention-getting headline, which is pretty standard. And then the email should be fairly short and to the point, and have a very clear call to action on what they should do next if they're interested in talking with you.
Yeah. And I think one big key here that we should kind of go over or kind of mention again is remove you from the email, so it's not at all about you. Like I almost always recommend that any sentence that starts with like I, or that has me in it, or my company, or what I do, that be replaced with with the word you in it. So, and it just kind of forces you to no longer talk about yourself and talk about the other person. Or if you're going to talk about yourself, talk about it in terms of what the other person is going to get. And there's a few examples in the book. There's actually a ton of different, like every kind of concept we talked about today. There's a specific example for each one. And so yeah, that's kind of the one thing I think we should underline here is taking yourself out. Like, it's not about you. The email you're sending isn't about you. It's about the person you're emailing. And the only goal you have in a cold email, there's one thing you want, and that's for the person to reply to the email. Anything that doesn't help get a reply to the email it should be eliminated completely from the email. So if you're showing your portfolio, if you're trying to exhibit like some charm or some wit in your email, if you're, all these different things people feel like they have to do in the email, like introduce my company, link to my website, that none of that stuff is going to help you get a reply to the email. So it should be eliminated completely.
Nice. I love that. So let's wrap it up here, man. We're right on time. Before we go, though, tell the listener a little bit about emails that win you clients, and what they're going to learn in the book.
So it's basically what we talked about today, but it's kind of like in chronological order. So it's like how to start writing an email, how to write your first few words down, how to write the subject is at the beginning, and then how to close an email is at the end. How to end it and how to have a real strong call to action is at the end. So you can basically open it up with, if you're in Gmail writing your email, you can open up the book and kind of go step by step and kind of like a checklist of like, okay, here's how I should start it. Here's what should be in the middle, and kind of work it off of that. And it talks completely about everything we mentioned today, and it breaks down every concept we've talked about, and how to do it specifically. How to start an email, how to not babble, how to not send unsolicited crappy emails, how to get to the point, how to not ramble, how to write very clearly, how to come up with the call to action that's going to entice them to reply, and all the different stuff you should focus on when you're writing it. So I designed it basically for the freelancers on my list that I've worked with for the past year on writing better emails. And I think one thing we don't really notice is that how much time we dedicate to writing emails. So I always think back to, like, if you saw a 5% increase in the quality of the emails you send, that would mean like 5% more replies. That would mean 5% more clients, 5% more upsells. It would just kind of explode your business, because we kind of think emails happen behind the doors or behind the scenes, and it's really not the case. Like, most business happens through email. And so I think a 5% increase in the quality of emails you send would be very modest for reading the book. And if you applied every principle in it, just because the quality of emails that people send are so bad. I know copywriters are a little better, but it's I think, as far as what I've seen with the freelancers I've worked with, they've started sending 50, 75% better emails, and they get twice as many replies as they were getting or more. So I mean, yeah, that's the basic gist of the book and everything.
I like it.
Yeah,
and
I appreciate
where's that
you.
at? Emailsthatwin.com, right?
Yeah, it's on emailsthatwin.com. And the other service that I have is Workshop. It's letsworkshop.com.
Yeah.
And that's the newsletter. So I appreciate you letting me come on and discussing this with me. I think it's something that needs to be talked about a little more. So I appreciate it.
Good stuff, man. Well, I had a blast. It's very interesting to talk about. Thank you for coming on the show. What I'll do is I'll have links to emailsthatwin.com and letsworkshop.com on the McMethod.com in the show notes for this episode. So if people forget the links, it should be easy to remember. So hopefully we get you some. People should go and if you're struggling with cold emails, you need a hand. I would go and get Robert's book for sure. And I'm also interested in checking out this Let's Workshop, getting just leads mailed to you. So cool, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks again.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast, sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.